Amending the Constitution. Amending the Constitution. Episode 10. Yeah. Alright, before we can get into actually how we amend the Constitution, we need to know what is an amendment. And I'm happy to inform you that an amendment, this word right here, amendment, means change. More specifically, an amendment is a change to the Constitution. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Miss Seth. Oh, Miss Seth, why? Why would we want to change our Constitution? Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes even our forefathers made mistakes, and sometimes we need to update the laws of the land, right? That's why we would need to amend it. So let's get into how do we do that. So the Constitution actually lays out how one would go about amending the Constitution, and that's found in Article 5. Article 5. And the basic, thought process behind these procedures is that amending the Constitution or making a change to the Constitution should be more difficult than passing any ordinary law. And how they did that was that by, when you pass an ordinary law, you just need a majority vote. However, when you're passing an amendment, you require more than the simple majority. This makes it more difficult to pass a constitutional amendment. The Constitution outlines 2 ways to propose an amendment, which is the first step into making an amendment, and there are also going to be 2 ways to ratify that proposed amendment. The first way that one can propose an amendment, is by voting on it in Congress. And, as a matter of fact, all the amendments to the Constitution so far have been approved by Congress. And what that means is that both the House of Representatives and the Senate are presented with this new amendment. For it to pass, at least 2/3 of both houses must approve the amendment before it can be sent to the states for ratification. So that means that 2/3 of the House of Representatives, which happens to be 290 votes, and 2/3 of the Senate, 67 votes, need to pass it to approve an amendment before it can be sent to the states for ratification. So that means that many people need to vote yes just for it to be proposed. So if you do the math, that's actually, what's 290 plus 67, 7, 15. So 357 of our congressmen and women need to agree on something for it to pass onto the ratification process. And if you'll remember, ratification means approval. The second way that amendment may also be proposed is by a national convention that is called by Congress at the request of at least 2/3 of state legislators. So that's 34 state legislators. This process has not been done before because people are weary, meaning they're uneasy, unsure about how it's worded in Article 5 of the Constitution. It's not very specific, and because it's not very specific, people don't want to go down that route. So the second one, although it is a way, has never been done and probably won't ever really be used. Okay, we've now proposed our amendments either through a national convention or through Congress. Now we need it to get ratified. We need it to get passed, approved. We also have 2 ways to do that. We can get it voted on by, that should say state legislators, state. Or it could get approval of special conventions. All but one of the Constitution amendments has been ratified by votes in state legislators. And what that means is that legislators in at least 3/4, meaning 38 states, must approve the amendment before it becomes part of the Constitution. So 38 states have to decide, yes, we like this law, we approve of it, it's becoming part of the Constitution. The second method is approval of special conventions. So, once again, we gather up the conventions. At least 3/4 of the states must agree on it for it to be ratified or approved. The only amendment that this second way has ever worked on is the 21st Amendment. And the 21st Amendment, if you all remember, reversed the legislative act of the 18th Amendment, which put in place prohibition. All this is a little graphic organizer to re-explain what I just explained in the last two slides. How do we propose an amendment and how it can be ratified as well. Okay, so now we get to the actual amendments. There are 27 amendments. Amendment 1 through 10 we're going to go through in detail in the next episode. Also, 21 through 27 were supposed to show up like right here somewhere. Right here, yeah. That didn't happen, so I'm just going to read them off to you. But like I said, Amendment 1 through 10 we'll go through in episode 11, which leads us to the 11th Amendment, which is suits against the state. And I don't mean suits the type you wear. I'm talking about lawsuits. That's what it goes through, is how one, not just how one can sue a state, but how one cannot sue a state, actually. I keep wanting to say episode 12. What I mean is Amendment 12 is how the election of the vice president and the president happens. Oh my goodness. I swear, I'll get it right. Amendment 13 abolishes slavery. Amendment 14 gives the rights to its citizens, privileges and immunities, due process, and equal protection. Amendment 15, African American suffrage. That means that African American men of a certain age, I think at that time it was actually 21 and not 18, were able to vote. Amendment 16 discusses income taxes. Amendment 17, it lays out how we directly elect our senators. Amendment 18 was prohibition, meaning the sale and consumption of alcohol became illegal. Amendment 19 gave women the right to vote. Amendment 20 changed the date for presidential and congressional terms of office. Amendment 21, not on the screen, is the repeal of prohibition, meaning they took away the illegality of drinking if you were of age. Amendment 22 sets a two-term limit on presidential tenure. That means that you can only be president for 2 terms or 8 years. The 23rd Amendment gives the right to vote in presidential elections for the residents of the District of Columbia. So if you live in Washington, D.C., you could now vote even though it's not a state. The 24th Amendment banned poll taxes in federal elections. The 25th Amendment laid out the presidential disability and succession, so who would take over the presidency should the president fall ill or unfortunately pass away. The 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18, and the last amendment to be passed in 1992 was legislative salaries. And all that means is legislators couldn't give themselves a raise in an election year. Now, I just listed off what the amendments were. I didn't go into detail about them. And the reason I didn't do that is because, well, that would be too easy. Why? Why would I do that? That's so nice. No. One of our activities will be to go into detail on the amendments. So that's why I'm not giving you the details of them yet, just what they actually state.
No changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch.